Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at what a Trump electoral win in 2024 would entail. So that would mean the states that Trump would need to win in 2024, and the most likely scenario for a Trump electoral win in 2024 if he is the Republican nominee in 2024. And if he does decide to run in 2024, it would be likely that he is the Republican nominee. So these are the states that Trump would need to win for an electoral victory and what it would take for Trump to win. So first, I'm just going to start with the safe states for either parties. These are states that are unlikely to flip for either side, and so for the Democratic safe state, it's unlikely that Trump would be able to flip any of these states, and for the Republican safe states, it's unlikely that Biden would be able to flip any of these states as well. So the first, I'm just going to start highlighting a couple of these states. Washington would go for the Democrats, Oregon, California, Nevada, all for the Democratic Party. And then the Republican Party safe states are Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, minus the 2nd district, Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. So I've outlined all the safe states for either party. As you can see, if I scroll up here, the Democrats have 231 electoral votes with their safe states, and the Republicans have 125 electoral votes with their safe states. So let's just get straight into it. So for Trump, in order to win in 2024, he would need to carry all the states that he carried in 2020. So that would include the states of Iowa, Ohio, and Florida. Trump won all three of these states. He won Ohio by north of 6 or 7%, same with the state of Iowa, and he won Florida by about 3%. So he would need to carry all three of those states in order to even be in the contention for an electoral win in 2024. Secondly, he would need to carry the state of North Carolina. The state of North Carolina was won by Trump by just north of 1%, and so he would need to continue to have his base support him in the state of North Carolina. The next state that I want to talk about is the state of Texas. I think that Trump can win this state in 2024. If you have seen some of my previous videos, Texas is becoming incredibly close. President Biden was able to get close in the state of Texas. Trump only won the state of Texas by north of 5% and rounded up about 6%. So it is actually, it's likely that Trump still wins this state, but not by too much in 2024. It is likely that Trump only wins the state of Texas by about 3, maybe 4%. The next state I'll be talking about, actually it's a district, is Maine's 2nd district. Trump won the 2nd district of Maine into the 2020 election, and he would need to carry it in order to have his electoral win in 2024. The next states that I'm going to be talking about are the Rust Belt states. If you haven't seen some of my previous videos, the Rust Belt is becoming more Republican. It's becoming more conservative because lots of voters in the major Democratic cities of the North and from the West, so states such as California, and from the North, states such as Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are moving down south. They're moving to Texas and Florida and Georgia, which is why Trump actually has a good shot at winning the Rust Belt. Biden only won the state of Wisconsin by 20,000 votes. That is something that's doable for Trump, especially because Trump can expand his base to offset the number of people that are leaving, or he can just win 20,000 more electoral votes, especially because it's likely that 20,000 people, 20,000 Democratic voters, moved from Wisconsin down south somewhere else from 2020 to 2024. And so it's likely that Trump actually wins the state of Wisconsin in the 2024 election. The next state that I'm going to be talking about is the state of Pennsylvania. Trump has a shot in Pennsylvania. At one point in the 2020 election, Trump was up 16% in the state, but eventually, as more mail-in ballots were counted and the election results were tabulated, President Biden actually won by about 1.2%. But Trump has been able to win in Pennsylvania. His performance in 2020 was almost an underperformance, but as more voters from this state moved to other places, Trump has a good chance of winning in Pennsylvania and making it closer, especially because his base will stick with him, and all he has to do is expand a little bit more, whether that comes from resources from campaign ads or whatever it may be. Trump just needs to win a few thousand more votes in both of these states to win them. Because when we think about it, 0.7% in Wisconsin and 1.2% in Pennsylvania, that's doable for a candidate. The next state I'm going to be talking about is the state of Michigan. the state of Michigan will go to the Democratic Party. It went to Joe Biden by about 3%, and it just unfortunately isn't likely that Trump is able to offset his performance and expand his performance enough to counteract all those Democratic voters. It is likely that Michigan is much closer. Michigan might only go to President Biden by 1% or maybe even less than 1%. But it will still go to the Democratic Party, especially because one time in the Obama era, Michigan went to President Obama by 16%. The Rust Belt itself used to be a Democratic stronghold, but as it has become more Republican and more conservative, that has obviously changed. But the state of Michigan was the most Democratic of the three, which is why it will probably stay that way in 2024. Now, I can't speak for 2028 or 2032 because it is possible that Michigan actually goes for the Republican Party in those two elections, but currently, I think that it will stay for the Republican Party. Now, if we want Trump to win the election, he needs to win one of the remaining two states. Currently, he's at 264 electoral votes to President Biden's 246. So Trump would need to win either the state of Arizona or the state of Georgia. Now, the state of Georgia was closer. If we go to the actual political map here, the state of Georgia, 2% by about 12,000 votes. But the state of Arizona was won by President Joe Biden by about 0.3%. Both are very close, but if Trump is going to win in 2024, he needs to win one of these two states. Now, which state does he have a better shot at? That's Georgia. Trump has a better shot at the state of Georgia. In 2016, Trump won Georgia by about 5%. He lost it in 2020, but only about 12,000 votes. He only lost Georgia by about 12,000 votes. 12,000 votes is so minimal, it's so small, that Trump actually could have won Georgia in 2020. If he hadn't opposed mail-in ballots so much, it's likely that there were actually old people or maybe people that wanted to vote for Trump, at least 12,000 of them that wanted to vote for Trump that weren't able to because they were scared of the pandemic and so they didn't want to go to the actual polls, or they were scared that mail-in ballots were fraudulent because Trump told them so, and so they weren't able to vote like that, and so they weren't able to vote for Trump. It's likely that there were actually 12,000 people that weren't able to vote for Trump, and so Trump actually could have won the state of Georgia. But Georgia is becoming more Democratic, and so Trump will need to offset that even more. He will need to have maybe 20,000 electoral votes this time to offset Joe Biden's expanding lead and the Democratic Party's expanding lead in the state of Georgia. However, I think that Arizona will go to the Democratic Party. This is partly because a lot of regional Arizonians like their regional leadership. They liked Senator John McCain. Senator John McCain's wife endorsed President Biden. Those local Arizonians that are maybe even right-centered or sway a little bit to the right will still vote for Joe Biden because Joe Biden is more of a centrist Democrat and because they're just more okay with his policies because they respect their regional leadership more than national leadership. The last thing that I forgot to fill out was the 2nd District of Nebraska. That will likely go for the Democrats. It went for the Democrats in 2020, but at this point, Trump's already won the election with 280 electoral votes if he wins the state of Georgia. But Georgia will be a very crucial state, along with Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. If Trump loses even one of those states, his odds at winning the election go down drastically. Because if let's say if Trump loses the state of Pennsylvania, which went for Joe Biden by the most of those 3 states, and if that goes to Joe Biden, it's hard to give another state to President Trump. If we give another state, it would be the state of Arizona, but I doubt that Arizona actually goes to the Republicans in 2024. I just think that the citizens of Arizona are no longer aligned with the current Republican Party. They may be aligned with the Republican or conservative ideology, but they aren't in line with the current Republican Party and the state of where it's at, which is why I think the state of Arizona goes to the Democrats. But if Trump loses Arizona and Pennsylvania, it's hard for me to give him any other state to win the election. Maybe he can win the state of Minnesota because Minnesota is sort of part of that Rust Belt trio. I mean, it isn't technically, but I think that Minnesota will actually increase in its support for the Republican Party. Not enough to actually flip the state. Minnesota went for President Biden by about 7%. I think it might go to President Biden by about maybe 3% or 4% in 2024. But Trump may have a shot at winning Minnesota if he doesn't win Michigan, Pennsylvania, or Arizona. The next state I give him on the map would be Nevada, but I just can't give Trump that. It's just unlikely. But Trump's best shot would be winning the states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Georgia to win the election. If Trump wins those three states, along with the other states that we gave him of Florida, Ohio, Iowa, and Texas, Trump has a good shot of actually winning the election. And this is what a Trump 2024 election win would look like. It's likely that this is what you see on election night, or whenever we get the results of that election, and if Trump is the winner, this is probably what it looks like. I don't think, obviously a couple states may go a little bit differently, but yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.